That's the feeling we've all had. How new shoes would make you glad, but the best time you recall when you wore no shoes at all. Back the days.
Whoa. Well, that is not a good place to practice guitar. But it is a good place to store root vegetables. That may be the first and the last time you hear Climax Blues Band coming from a root cellar. Today I wanted to talk to you about this great floor root cellar that I put into the floor of the foundation of my house when I was building it. I chose this part of the foundation because it was the deepest part, and it sort of goes down deep enough to have a good space there to have a root cellar. It's like right next to where my kitchen is, where I want to be able to be to access the vegetables in it. And this root cellar is about 3 feet deep this way. It's about 4 feet in length, and then about 3 feet deep down. And it's just been a great place to store vegetables over the winter. It usually hangs just above freezing, which is just the perfect temperature for storing root vegetables like carrots and potatoes and beets. I'll put them in like sawdust or in some sand or something, whatever I have on hand, and I'll just sort of dump water in there every once in a while to add moisture to make sure that it's not getting too dry. And I can store these vegetables through the winter into the spring. Usually around summertime it gets pretty warm in here, so it'll get up to like 60 degrees, so I don't really use it for much in the summertime. Normally root cellars use the thermal mass of the earth, so they're digging down deeper into the earth and using that thermal mass of the earth to keep that space warm. Usually down, I think, about 6 feet. The earth's temperature is around like between 50 and 55 degrees on average, so it'll stay that way all the time through summer and winter. This root cellar does not really use that same concept. It's more creating a balance between the outdoors and the indoors. There's the foundation wall of the foundation, because this is the deepest part of the foundation back here. It's maybe a 3-foot section that sticks up above the ground, and so you have the outdoor temperature, which right now is pretty cold, is coming in, and then you have the indoor temperature, which is keeping it sort of moderated. And so the combination of those keeps this root cellar at an ideal temperature just above freezing for storing root vegetables. These are some of the things that I store in here. This is like a sriracha pickle made from chilies. And then these are some potatoes that I grew last year. So I just got a bucket of potatoes in there, and I probably harvested those in September. And then these are some carrots. I don't have very many fall carrots, but normally I plant a lot more fall carrots, but they just didn't do very well this year. But these things are just delicious. Like, they are so much sweeter than anything you get in the store. They're crispy, they're juicy. So much better than the dry, pasty, flavorless carrots that you get at the store. I also will store, I have some wine that I made a gallon jug of wine that I haven't bottled yet. I need to get to bottling that. And now around this area in northeastern Missouri, and probably a lot of places in the country, like rural places in the country, the farmsteads all have root cellars. Since the advent of refrigeration, like all of these root cellars that are on these farmsteads have gone unused. So people don't even use them anymore. And it's partially because they don't grow their own vegetables anymore. They don't grow their own food, and so they don't need a place to store them. You know, for thousands of years, people used the thermal mass of the earth to store and preserve their food for a longer part of the season. And in concert with things like smoking and salting, they were able to create a lot of unique foods and flavors. And these are the foods and flavors that we have as a major part of our diet. All the like crazy fancy foods that you can think of that are highly valued, the cheeses, the wines, the pickles, the whatever you can think of, the charcuterie, all of those things, those flavors would never have been created by humanity if we just had access to regular refrigeration. Because what we do today is we just refrigerate food, we grow it somewhere across the world, we ship it fresh here, and then we can eat it fresh. So we don't have any reason to preserve it because we have refrigeration. We're not really developing those unique foods and flavors anymore because we're so dependent on refrigeration. And now, even to make those cheeses and those wines and all of those flavors that people want and that have such a high dollar value now, we're using fossil fuel to power refrigeration so that we can heat spaces and then refrigerate them so that we can create the ideal conditions that people used to have in root cellars and in wine cellars, whatever, a cheese cave, all of these things. People used to get that refrigeration naturally, and now it's done with fossil fuel and it's highly, climate controlled. Now, people don't grow their own food anymore, but if you're part of a CSA or you have a local farmer's market, you can buy your food in bulk. And if you built a root cellar in your yard, you could use the weather conditions in your area, that thermal mass of the earth, to cool your vegetables and store them throughout the winter. And if you wanted to grow your own vegetables in your garden, you could take advantage of a root cellar in that way as well. So that's why I built this little root cellar in my house here in the corner. Ideally, I would like to have a bigger one outside, or like a community root cellar, and people have talked about that, but it hasn't happened yet. So in the meantime, I have this little one in my house, and I think this space could store as much food as I needed to tide me through the winter. This season, I don't have very much in it because it was such a poor season last year. But the year before, I had this thing packed with potatoes and 100 pounds of carrots, beets. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something about the potential for using the Earth's thermal mass to store food throughout the year. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to share it. And also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that. And I want to thank all the people that have subscribed and are watching my videos and giving them thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments section below, and I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I've been able to improve the soil in this spot and have grown, hundreds of pounds of greens out of this area in the last 4 years or so. These have been growing really well in here, even though there's actually no top on the hoop house right now. I lost the top this summer in one of the hurricane-forced winds during a storm. We had a lot of storms